Hey guys, so yesterday I saw the movie Companion starring Jack Quaid and Sophie Thatcher. So I'm going to get into spoilers about it, but I'll just say this. Do I think it was a good movie? Yes. If you're thinking about watching the movie, go watch it. Don't let me spoil it for you, especially if you know nothing about it. If you haven't seen the trailers for this movie, and I'll talk about that when I talk about getting to the spoilers, don't watch trailers for the movie. Don't go in. It's better if you go into the movie completely cold, not even knowing what the trailers are. I always say, if I'm going to talk about a movie, say whether it's good or bad, instead of saying like it's a, 5 star, something like that. I like to say, well, if you like this movie, then you'll possibly like this movie. And I have to kind of look this up because I remember I'm kind of forgetting the movie. So what I'll say is like, if you like this movie, then you'll like this movie. Let me see here. I think I'm looking this up. So if you like the following movie, and it's not, I want to make sure I get the title of this movie correct. If you enjoyed the movie Promising Young Woman, then you'll probably like this movie, Promising Young Woman with Carey Mulligan. It came out in 2020. So if you like that movie, then watch this movie. And that kind of gives you some idea of some of the themes maybe of this movie. Yes, no, a little bit. Not exactly the same things, but I think that if you like that one, you'll like this one. Now, the movie has been kind of marketed as being a horror film. It's really not. The director described the movie as being more like, I think he said, think of it as like a 60% romantic drama, and the romantic element, that's probably a better description of it. It's not a horror movie. I'll say why I think that, and also on top of why I think it's a great movie, because that kind of goes into the spoilers. So I'm going to start spoiling the movie now. So unfortunately, if you watch the trailer, at least the trailers that came out later within the movie, you realize that Sophie Thatcher's character is an android. I think technically it would be called a gynoid, because a female android would be a gynoid. And I think that it's clear from watching the movie that was supposed to be kind of a surprise in the movie. So here's just a quick, if you stuck with this and you haven't watched the movie, but you want to know what's going on. Basically, Jack Quaid and Sophie Thatcher in a relationship. It starts out with showing how they meet one another. How they meet is very corny. It's like some late 20, 30-something year olds, fantasy of meeting a manic pixie dream girl in a supermarket. It's corny as hell. And you kind of find out later on why it is. But they're going on this trip where they're meeting with 2 other couples at a lake house. And then, when they get to the lake house, first of all, the way he's speaking to her, he's kind of talking down to her. He's kind of telling her what to do. Even when they get to the lake house and they're leaving the car, he's carrying nothing. She's carrying most of the bags, and she's just dawdling over him. What can I do to make you happy? Oh, I love you so much. What can I do to make you happy? So the whole dynamic there is it's very off. So anyway, when they get there, what he does is he basically changes her configuration so she's capable of hurting people, committing acts of violence. They don't say it, but I guess they have the Asimov 3 rules of robotics going on. So kind of knowing the guy who runs the lake house is this really creepy, skeevy guy, and knowing that he's going to try to force himself on her, he changes the settings and put her up in the situation and basically puts a weapon in her pocket, a knife in her pocket, knowing that this guy is going to try to make a move on her, and knowing that she's going to respond in kind, which she does by killing the guy. So they try to show this, they kind of try to market this movie as some type of killer robot movie, and it's not. Because what happens is, one, he sets her up to murder this guy. And the way he does that is basically her response, her interaction with him is basically what a human being would do. He's forcing himself on her. She says no. She keeps pleading no. She takes action to get him off her. That doesn't kill him immediately. She actually tries to help him after that. And then he proceeds to try to, by all accounts, kill her, even though she's a robot. And what she does is, in from her vantage point, self-defense, because she does not know, by the way, that she's a robot. So then, for the rest of the movie, she catches wind that their plan is to set her up for the murder, which they did, and basically deactivate her and steal the money that the skeevy guy had. And for the rest of the movie, all she's trying to do is get away, and by extension, gain self-control, because at this point, she's still controlled by these remote devices, basically an app in his phone. Not trying to really hurt anybody, not trying to attack anybody. Like, I have to eliminate all of them first. She's literally trying to get away. That's all she's trying to do, is basically achieve freedom. So, not a horror movie. If it is a horror movie, she's not the villain. All the other people out there, especially Jack Quaid, are the villain, which is kind of an interesting twist. And maybe from that point, it could be a horror movie where this robot is the most sympathetic, most human character out there, and she's surrounded by ostensibly, at one point, 5. But after she killed that guy, 4 people who are the real villains and monsters of the story. I really like the movie. One, you kind of almost expect there to be this thing where she becomes kind of superhuman, super intelligent, super strong, and just takes everybody out. That never happens. She does have an intelligent setting. She does have some things that she can do because she's a robot. She's able to manipulate her voice very clumsily, where she's able to activate his electronics by imitating his voice, but it's, like I said, very clumsy. Her intelligence settings are set at less than half of what she's capable of, but even when she increases her intelligence settings, as they kind of explain, she's not this super computer. She has the intelligence of a very smart human being. And even when she's going through trying to escape and she's going through her thought process, she's basically doing what a human being would do, saying, like a smart person would do, saying, well, if I do this, this is going to play out this way, this is going to play out. And her limitations, with the exception of being able to modulate her voice, she has the same limitations as a human. She never gains any type of superhuman strength, even though it's kind of implied that her strength settings could be increased. That never happens. So basically what this movie is about is, on the surface, it has the surface level of a robot trying to escape, trying to gain autonomy and freedom and get away from the monster, which is Jack Quaid. But it's also it's really a story that a lot of people can relate to. Is getting out of a toxic relationship and being metaphorically controlled, or in some cases not a metaphor, but at least metaphorically breaking the programming of being in a toxic relationship. I think probably most of us have been in those relationships where, thank God, if we ever escape them, we look back at it and we say, why were we in them? Why did we let that person control us so much? And this is what is going on with this character. It's being under the control of this person. And the great thing I like about it is that even though in no process in her trying to break that control did she stop being a sympathetic character, that she's basically, it's a strange thing to say, but lose her humanity. She took up for herself and she fought, but she never became just like a complete monster. Unfortunately, I think this movie is going to be compared to other movies like Megan, or probably the most recent one that came out, or really recent one that came out. People are going to definitely compare it to the Megan Fox movie. I was saying Megan Good. The Megan Fox movie, I think is Subservient or something, where she basically plays a killer companion robot. That movie is not particularly good. Also, if you're trying to find a robot, talking about the Megan Fox movie, if you're trying to find a robot that's going to help you take care of your family and your kid while your wife is in the hospital, don't get one that looks like Megan Fox. Don't get one that looks like Megan Fox. Don't get one that looks like Megan Good. Don't get one that looks like Meghan Markle. You're going to probably end up banging it. I don't know what that movie was total bad shit. I don't know what's going on with that. But anyway, Companion's really good. Sophie Thatcher, maybe. So I also saw her recently in, what was it, Heretic? I never watched, what was that, Yellow Jackets. I never watched Yellow Jackets. I never watched the Book of Boba Fett. I know she was in those. But I think she may be one of my one of become kind of from just these two movies, one of my favorite actresses, favorite actors. She managed to kind of even in this movie and in Heretic, if I remember, that's the movie with Hugh Grant where her and the other Mormon missionary go in the guy's house. She managed to kind of balance this thing of kind of strength and vulnerability. This movie it's the acting choices. It's just kind of amazing how the physicality of even how she does the role, like little things like. There's scenes, I don't know if people notice this, when she's walking, she kind of, even before it's revealed that she's a robot, and that's why I think the movie, I don't think you were supposed to know going into the movie that she was a robot, but there's little things about how she carries herself that's not quite human. So that was just kind of the way she brought the physicality to the role. So, like I said, I think that those aspects, I think a lot of people will be able to relate to the movie. Oh, and I'll say this. There's definitely an intended feminist element in the movie, which I did like. There's one thing in the movie, and I'll mention this, and I guess I just want to say this. I don't know if you've seen the movie or if you're going to watch the movie, tell me if you picked up on this or me telling you think if this was intentional. So at the end of the movie, Jack Quaid basically forces her to shoot herself in the head, thinking that's going to destroy her and also destroy all of her memory and proof that he tampered with her to get her to do those things. But then he finds out, even after he forces her to do this, he finds out that basically all the brain is just, or where her head is just kind of a Wi-Fi connection. A Wi-Fi connection and a few other things like auditory processing or some other processing, but the actual memory and thinking takes place in the lower abdomen. So what he does is after he forces her to do that, he's about to shoot her in the abdomen, and that's when she basically manages to save herself. I think this is kind of interesting, and I imagine this has to be intentional, that her thinking or processing her memories, essentially her brain, would be basically in the part of the body which would have the uterus. I think that's kind of, to say it's kind of cool is strange, but I think it's kind of a cool choice in the sense that historically we have this thing called female hysteria, which is this made up, is basically female hysteria was the natural condition of the whole world treating you like you're a child, even you're a grown-ass person, and saying that this quote-unquote hysteria, the word hysteria comes from the same root as hysterectomy, which was referring to that the female sex organs. So kind of this basically historically linking female sex organs to irrationality and impulse control and basically insanity, and sitting there and flipping on his head and saying that really her real strength is that part of the body, is in that part of the body which has for much of human history been demonized. I thought that was a nice little twist. Anyway, like the movie, really like the acting. Sophie Thatcher was really good in it. Check it out.